According to General Hospital spoilers, Willow Tate may be planning a disastrous wedding day. Is this when Drew Cain and Nina Reeves' secret will finally be revealed? Drew felt he couldn't abandon Willow after his confrontation with Jason Morgan on June 16. Drew is more determined than ever to support Willow and fight Michael Corinthos for her children. Martin Gray indicated at a dangerous technique Drew could employ, one that Martin himself would not attempt again. Given how many times Martin had been married, he had to be thinking about getting married again. That is consistent with Drew's marriage proposal in GH's weekly teaser video. Drew is about to put pressure on Willow to marry, so she will have to make a difficult decision, and will eventually make a major announcement. Willow appears to be ready to announce her engagement to Drew, and begin wedding planning right away. Willow will undoubtedly want her mother to be there to support her, but Nina Reeves is unlikely to approve of this marriage for a variety of reasons. Nina wouldn't be on board under normal conditions, but she certainly won't be when Willow's mental state is so bad. Willow does not need to make any major decisions right now, therefore Nina will most likely be furious that Drew talked her into it. If this wedding proceeds, how far will Nina go to stop it? Will Nina say enough is enough and object to her own daughter's wedding? It would be dramatic if now is the moment Nina decides to speak up. Nina might admit to sleeping with Drew while Willow was falling for him, implying that Willow betrayed her family for a guy who was hooking up with her mother. Of course, someone else may reveal Drew and Nina's intimate encounters to create a wedding day surprise instead. Tracy Quartermaine may be an alternative if she is unable to reach an agreement with Drew over the entire drugging conspiracy. It is possible that Tracy will seek revenge on Drew and wreck his wedding in the end. Even Sasha Gilmore Corbin might turn on Nina to keep Willow from slipping deeper into Drew's clutches. It would be a terrific twist, given that Nina was the one who revealed Sasha's baby's paternity. Whatever the case, Drew and Willow's wedding day could be a surprise, so stay tuned for updates on all the drama. According to General Hospital teasers, Willow will undoubtedly receive shocking news at some point. On what should have been the most beautiful day of Willow's life, Port Charles is plunged into complete turmoil. The sun rose on Willow's wedding day with every intention of love and joy, but secrets lurked behind the smiles and lace-trimmed gowns, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Willow, still fragile from her recuperation and attempting to embrace the second opportunity at life she'd been given, had worked hard to make this day a representation of her emotional journey. She was determined to put the misery of disease, familial betrayals and past falsehoods behind her, and she saw Michael as the secure harbor she had long sought. But while the flowers were being prepared and Wiley practiced his part in the ceremony, storm clouds formed. Nina was nowhere to be found, and Drew was acting strangely tense, distant, his jaw hard with the weight of something he hadn't yet revealed. It wasn't simply pre-wedding nervousness. It was a massive secret that threatened to shatter Willow's ideal day and tear her world apart all over again. Michael, who is usually aware of energy shifts, had already seen changes in Drew's conduct in the days leading up to the wedding. Drew's phone talks got more private, and his sudden absences became more difficult to explain. Michael had inquired more than time if there was anything wrong, anything at all, but Drew dismissed it as ELQ stress and attempted to hide the true reason. Unfortunately, secrets have a way of making their way to the surface, especially in Port Charles, and Drew's silence would not last forever. The wedding site itself was immaculate, a lakeside mansion designed by Olivia and Carly with beauty and calm. However, as people arrived and took their seats, the tension became evident. Jocelyn saw it too, saying to Dex that something seemed off, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Brooke Lynn, dressed in a blush gown and carrying her bouquet with shaking hands, couldn't stop staring at the front entrance, looking for Nina, who hadn't yet appeared. It wasn't like her to miss something so significant, especially since her daughter had finally welcomed her back into her life. Nina was in the midst of a catastrophic collapse, which the wedding guests had no idea about. Martin had sent her a cryptic but unambiguous message the night before. Her SEC tip-off to the feds about Carly and Drew's insider trading had been revealed. Someone had discovered out. Worse, there was concern that Drew himself might have discovered the truth. If that's the case, Nina's entire future with Willow, Sunny, and the rest of the Corinthos family could disintegrate before she ever gets to escort Willow down the aisle. Nina considered fleeing town that morning. She had even packed a bag, unsure what would happen if all was revealed. But as she glanced at the framed portrait of Willow holding Amelia, beaming with the compassion Nina had hoped to see for years, she made a different decision. She was not planning to run. Not again. She'd turn there, confront whatever was coming, and hope it wasn't too late to repair things. Meanwhile, Drew was struggling with his own conscience. The tip had been revealed, but he lacked strong evidence that Nina was the source. However, all clues led to her, and if this was true, Willow's mother had sparked all he'd gone through. His time in prison, Carly's legal nightmares, and the near loss of ELQ. The betrayal was personal. Worse, it might spoil Willow's wedding day, leaving Drew to tread a fine line between truth and protection. Should he inform Michael now, risking the entire wedding going up in flames? Should he wait, confront Nina alone, and find a way to resolve things quietly? Carly, as sensitive as usual, sensed Drew's inner conflict. She drew him aside just as the ceremony was about to begin and demanded the truth. Drew hesitated before confessing. He felt Nina had been the SEC informant all along. Carly's eyes flashed with rage, but she kept it in. They couldn't do it now. Not today. Not Willow. Except that fate had different plans. Just as the ceremony began, Willow coming along the path, her white gown trailing behind her, beaming with joy, the estate's back doors opened. Nina stood there, pale and shaking, her eyes filled with dread and remorse. The entire congregation turned, gasping, as if they sensed an impending calamity. Willow halted, her smile faltering as she noticed her mother's untidy appearance. Michael's jaw stiffened. Drew clutched his fists. The audience fell silent, thick and unyielding. "I need to speak," Nina murmured, her voice wavering but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Before this wedding goes any further, I have something I need to confess." You could have heard a pin drop. Willow's face crumpled in perplexity and dread. "What are you talking about, Mom?" Nina gazed at Drew. "He knows," she said. "He knows everything. And if I don't say it now, somebody else will." Michael got out of his chair and grabbed Willow's hand, pulling her close to him protectively. Drew stepped forward. "Tell them, Nina. Tell them what you did." Then it came out. Nina admitted to being the SEC whistleblower. She stated that out of spite and envy, she had reported Carly and Drew's dealings to the authorities. She had done it to harm them and then regretted it, afraid to admit it when it was too late to undo it. Gasps echoed throughout the wedding attendees. Sonny rose up slowly, his countenance impassive, while Jocelyn looked wide-eyed at the lady who had almost killed her mother. Ava, standing toward the back, closed her eyes, already calculating how this bombshell would change the entire Port Charles political structure. Willow, stunned into silence, turned away with her body shivering. The lady she had recently accepted as a mother had fractured that delicate connection in front of everyone. All the work they'd made, weeks of establishing trust, tender moments between mother and daughter, was erased in seconds. "Why now?" Willow asked in a raspy voice. "Why today?" Nina, her tears streaming freely, shook her head helplessly. "Because I couldn't deal with it anymore. Not with you marrying Michael, and not realizing that the lie between us may destroy everything." Michael's face was stone. He stared at Drew, then at Carly, who stood behind Willow with a strong grip on her daughter-in-law's shoulder. "Did you know?" he asked Drew. "Only recently," Drew admitted. "I didn't want to tell you today." Willow took a step back, her thoughts racing. Everything was unraveling. Her mother had betrayed their family. Her new spouse had kept it from her. The ceremony was spoiled. The guests were astonished. The photographers had dropped their cameras, taken aback by the rapid change in the day's tone. Worst of all, she was unsure how to feel. Grief, rage, heartbreak. Eventually, the event was interrupted. Olivia hurried the guests away with an apologetic smile, attempting to preserve what dignity remained. Dante and Sam assisted to direct the puzzled children, while Sonny pulled Nina away, his rage seething just beneath the surface. "You lied to me," he replied bitterly. "I was trying to protect." "No," Sonny interrupted her off. "You were defending yourself. And you used my family as collateral." Sonny saw this as more than just a legal matter. It was about treachery, and he didn't forgive quickly. Nina's confession had not only upset Willow and Michael, but it had also damaged any little faith Sonny had in her. Willow slumped into a chair, her dress bunching about her legs, her eyes blank from the weight of the situation. Michael knelt alongside her, but she moved away. "Give me a minute," she muttered. "I need to think." Michael nodded and took a step back. He turned to face Carly and Drew, who were standing awkwardly nearby. "This didn't need to happen like this," Michael replied coldly. "No," Carly agreed. "But perhaps it had to happen. You couldn't begin your marriage with a falsehood." That was the terrible truth. The wedding had been ruined, but the deception had been exposed. While the anguish was overpowering, there was now a sense of clarity. Willow had the truth. No more secrets. There will be no more fake peace. In the days that followed, the consequences were seismic. Willow withdrew to the Quartermain estate with Amelia and Wiley to ponder everything. Michael gave her space, hoping that his decision to remain silent would not lose him her trust indefinitely. Nina, now persona non grata in the Corinthos orbit, found herself isolated not only from Sunny but also from Willow. Drew, for his part, continued on. He desired justice, not just emotional satisfaction, but a formal investigation into how the SEC leak was handled. He believed Nina had breached the law, and he was not going to let it go just because of their shared past or familial ties. The genuine wild card in the aftermath was Sunny. Sunny wasn't just licking his wounds after being hurt, humiliated, and betrayed by someone he let into his inner circle. He was also planning his next move. He did not trust easily, and Nina had made him appear weak. That would not stand. Willow, lovely and scarred, found herself at a crossroads. Can she forgive Nina? Could she trust Michael again? Could she marry a guy who hid such tragic information, even to spare her pain? The wedding was postponed indefinitely. The outfit had been stored away. The rings remained in their box. And Port Charles continued on as it always does. But the holes caused by Nina's confession would take much longer to heal. According to General Hospital teasers, Rocco Falconeri may be shocked by Britt Westbourne's surrogacy revelation. Brooklyn Quartermain appears to be about to injure Giovanni Gio Palmieri's brother with the truth about the stolen embryo. So let's talk about her retribution on Lulu Spencer. In GH's June 16th episode, Lulu continued to act arrogantly toward Brooklyn. During their heated argument, Lulu insisted she did not lie to her children or hold enormous life-changing secrets from them. Unfortunately, Lulu may be holding a huge secret from Rocco if he doesn't know how he came to be. Britt was implanted with Lulu and Dante Falconeri's stolen embryos as part of a scheme to fool Patrick Drake into believing she was pregnant with his kid. That plot has many twists and other father lies, but the main point is that Britt gave birth to Ben, who was subsequently called Rocco after the truth was revealed. Although Lulu has been claiming that she does not lie or hold life-changing secrets from her children, she may be concealing significant information from Rocco. It's not Lulu and Dante's fault they were duped, but Rocco deserves to know it wasn't a natural conception that Britt carried him. If Lulu has been pretending otherwise, Brooklyn may be about to reveal anything. We know Brooklyn asked Marco Rios for help researching Britt Westbourne because her actions directly impacted Lulu and her family. Brooklyn wants all legal paperwork related to what happened, so Marco inquired what she was trying to prove. That Lulu isn't half the mother she says she is, and the key to proving it is Britt, Brooklyn said with conviction. Brooklyn clearly wants to knock Lulu off her high horse and reveal she is not the honest mother she claims to be. However, the phrase could also refer to the fact that Lulu did not give birth to Rocco. That has no bearing on the biology of the case, but Rocco may feel frustrated about not knowing Britt's role in his birth and how he came to be. In any event, Brooklyn's retribution scheme will definitely backfire if she follows through on it. Gio is not going to appreciate it if Brooklyn exploits his baby brother as a pawn in her Lulu revenge plot. Hurting Rocco will also quickly enrage Dante and exacerbate their already existing conflict. According to General Hospital spoilers, Brooklyn may come to regret what she does next, so stay tuned for more unpleasant news. The drama in Port Charles never seems to stop, and the latest revelations are sure to send shockwaves across multiple families. In an unforeseen twist, Rocco Falconeri uncovers the truth about Britt Westbourne's surrogacy and finds himself at the center of a life-altering mystery. Meanwhile, Brooklyn Quartermain exposes a bombshell regarding a stolen fetus, revealing a labyrinth of duplicity that will have viewers reeling. Rocco, the son of Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer, has always been a clever and inquisitive young man, but nothing could have prepared him for learning that Britt Westbourne had previously served as his parents' surrogate. The information comes as a great surprise, especially as Rocco had no notion his conception included a third party. Britt, a contentious character in Port Charles, first kept her involvement a secret for personal reasons. Now that the truth has been revealed, Rocco is forced to reconsider all he previously believed about his beginnings. The matter becomes much more difficult when Britt's previous activities are scrutinized. As a doctor, Britt has always walked a delicate line between professionalism and personal vendettas, and her decision to act as a surrogate for Dante and Lulu was not totally unselfish. There were underlying motivations, some relating to her troubled connection with her family, the Jeromes, and others to her own unresolved emotional issues. Rocco, feeling deceived and confused, confronts Britt and demands an explanation. However, Britt, known for her sharp tongue and guarded nature, may not be eager to provide the entire narrative, leaving Rocco to piece together the pieces of his past on his own. Meanwhile, Brooke Lynn Quartermaine, who has been embroiled in her own controversies, reveals another shocking truth. The embryo that was meant to be Rocco's was reportedly stolen. This news has sent shockwaves through the Quartermaine and Falconeri families, sparking doubts about who was responsible and why such a horrific deed was perpetrated. Brooke Lynn, who has been attempting to make amends for her previous misdeeds, is once again caught up in the pandemonium. Her decision to speak up now hints that she may have discovered proof that implicates someone powerful, possibly even a member of her own family. The Quartermaines are no strangers to trickery, so the thought that someone within their ranks may have planned such a scheme is not completely out of the question. The family has a lengthy history of manipulating, blackmailing, and betraying others in order to gain power and legacy. If Brooke Lynn's charges are genuine, the consequences could strain the already weak friendships within the Quartermaine mansion. Tracy Quartermaine, Monica, and Ned Ashton will be forced to confront the idea that one of their own has crossed an unacceptable boundary. As the truth about the stolen embryo emerges, the consequences for Rocco are grave. If the embryo used in Britt's surrogacy wasn't intended for Dante and Lulu, who were their biological parents? Could Rocco be the biological child of a different couple entirely? The thought that his entire identity is built on a lie puts him into a tailspin, so he looks to his father Dante for answers. Dante, who has always been a source of strength for his son, is now faced with the difficult duty of explaining a past that he may not entirely comprehend. Lulu's absence has a significant impact on the situation. Since her horrific tragedy and subsequent coma, Lulu has been unable to comment on the details surrounding Rocco's birth. If she were conscious, how would she respond to learning that her son's conception may have been the product of a crime? The emotional toll on Rocco is great, as he grapples with the possibility that his mother, like him, was kept in the dark. The stolen embryo mystery also raises concerns about possible further victims. If one embryo was extracted, were there any others? Who would have had the means and motivation to carry out such a scheme? The most obvious suspects are influential characters with access to fertility clinics, such as Helena Cassadine, who was notorious for her twisted experiments, or Valentine Cassadine, whose past is plagued with secrets and machinations. As the investigation progresses, relationships alter and long-buried grievances resurface. Britt, who has always been a divisive personality, may find herself playing both the villain and the victim in this story. Her participation in the surrogacy could have been forced, or she could have been an unintentional pawn in a greater game. In any case, her connection to Rocco's history places her at the center of the growing drama. Brooke Lynn, on the other hand, is determined to uncover the truth, regardless of the repercussions. Her path to redemption has been difficult, but this could be her chance to finally make amends for her previous mistakes. However, her decision to speak out puts her in jeopardy, as those responsible for the stolen embryo will go to any length to keep their secrets hidden. The consequences of these revelations will extend well beyond Rocco and Britt. Relationships will be tested, trust will be broken, and numerous families' foundations will be undermined. Dante, who has always prided himself on being an honest and loyal parent, must now face the idea that his son's life was based on a lie. How will this influence their relationship? And how will it affect Rocco's relationship with the rest of the Falconeri and Spencer families? Meanwhile, the Quartermaines are forced to confront their own terrible past. If one of their own was implicated in the heist, the fallout might be disastrous for the family's reputation. Monica, who has always preserved the Quartermaine name with honor, may be facing one of her most difficult challenges yet. As the truth gradually comes to light, Rocco must decide how to proceed. Will he reject the lies and search for his genuine biological roots? Or will he choose to embrace the family that reared him, regardless of the secrets? The emotional impact of his decision will define his destiny in ways he cannot yet understand. Finally, the stolen embryo story is about more than paternity. It's about identity, trust, and how far people would go to defend their own interests. As Port Charles prepares for the consequences, one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same. General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, June 17th, state that Sasha Gilmore Corbin will panic, while Michael Corinthos receives some troubling news. Drew Cain will also be bossing Nina Reeves and Portia Robinson around, so let's talk about what's coming up in Port Charles. Emma Scorpio Drake, who just stepped into Professor Henry Hank Dalton's office, will be surprised by the makeout session she witnessed. Vaughn began kissing Jocelyn Jacks in front of Emma so that their cover would not be blown, and Emma will assume she has discovered their hidden affair. When Vaughn and Jocelyn tell Emma to keep her mouth shut, she'll seem smug as if she has an advantage. Later, Jocelyn will have a proposition for Vaughn to examine, so perhaps she will lean into this bogus relationship element and devise another way to utilize it to their advantage. Other GH teasers state that Brooke Lynn Quartermaine will stick by her plan to exact revenge on Lulu Spencer. Marco Rios will be concerned about what Brooke Lynn has planned, but BLQ will continue to believe that using Lulu's history with Britt Westbourne against her is the greatest way to exact revenge. The episode will undoubtedly revisit Rocco Falconeri's conception, as well as the embryo theft mayhem caused by Britt's plot. At the Metro Court pool, Giovanni Gio Palmieri will forgive Lulu for revealing his true parentage in such a way. Although it was not a pleasant experience, Gio may be grateful to Lulu for revealing the true story. Nonetheless, Gio is unlikely to believe that Lulu can persuade him to form a bond with Dante Falconeri. Dante will meet with Sonny Corinthos on Tuesday's episode to express his concerns. Sonny has been through a lot in recent months, with his heart difficulties and multiple attempts on his life. While Sonny reassures Dante, Drew will be busy directing Nina and Portia in the hospital. When Portia and Nina try to argue, Drew reminds them that he runs the show. Michael will then meet with Curtis Ashford, who will provide updates on Drew's blackmail of Portia as well as his strategy to respond. Curtis will have a proposition for Michael to evaluate, so we'll see if they're about to collaborate. Regardless, Curtis will try to hunt down Jacinda and pay her to assist with Drew's takedown. Sasha will seem scared in her hospital room. Since Sasha will be cradling a supposedly happy and healthy Daisy Gilmore Corinthos, her anxiety should be about someone else. Sasha may question what they've done with her. Thus this unsettling reaction may occur after learning of Willow Tate's mental health problem. Fans of GH will know that Sasha experienced a complete nightmare in Ferncliff following her own mental breakdown. Sasha may want to ensure that Willow is not going through a similar struggle right now. Sasha was only beginning to feel like she could breathe again. After the emotional roller coaster of the previous several months, rebuilding her life, regaining her independence, and attempting to reestablish a feeling of normalcy, she believed she had finally found a rhythm. However, it only took one phone call to send her world spinning again. She had just left the Metro Court restaurant after meeting with Maxie about the latest deception campaign. The talk had been light and encouraging. Maxie's eyes were filled with excitement, a yearning to reintegrate Sasha into the firm, to be more than simply a face, but a partner, someone who could guide it into a new chapter. Sasha had smiled honestly for once, allowing herself to pretend that the tragedy of her past did not define her. Then the call arrived. Michael's name appeared on her phone screen, and Sasha responded with the same hope. But it vanished the moment she noticed the tightness in his voice. He was not phoning as a friend. He wasn't following up on her recuperation. No, this was different, urgent, dark, and in a tone she hadn't heard from him in a while. Sasha, you should come to the Quartermaine estate. Right now. It's about Willow and Nina, Michael added, his voice tight, a silent rage simmering beneath. The mere mention of Nina chilled Sasha's blood. Sasha hadn't had many warm sentiments for Nina since things broke apart, between lying, custody battles and manipulations. But she tried not to become involved in that disaster. She'd suffered enough pain, and becoming involved in Michael and Nina's conflict was never the idea. But she heard something else in Michael's voice: fear. She got into a car and drove directly to the estate, her heart racing and her pulse pounding with each new instant. She tried to consider the possibilities. Was Willow sick again? Had Nina violated the restrictions of her limited visitation? Had Nina's role in Drew's detention been revealed again? When she arrived, Michael was waiting for her on the front steps, face pale and expression strained. His stance was tight, as it was whenever he tried to pull himself together. Willow sat on the couch, her eyes burning and her body stiff. Whatever happened had struck her deeply. But when Sasha reached for her, Willow averted her gaze, not with rage, but with a sense of guilt that nearly swallowed the room. Michael did not waste time. He handed Sasha a tablet that was already connected to a surveillance video, blurry footage but clear enough to see the forms. Sasha blinked. Nina appeared on the screen inside a legal office Sasha didn't know, conversing with a man dressed in a fitted suit, Martin Gray. The audio was poor, but enough was recorded to be devastating. Nina had begun working with Martin again, but behind everyone's backs. She was looking for a legal way to reverse Michael and Willow's custody protections, hoping to build a case for visitation privileges that extended far beyond supervised time. But it was her words that made Sasha's stomach twist. "She'll forgive me eventually," Nina whispered in the video. "Everyone will. But I am not going to sit back and let them separate me from my grandchild." Sasha looked up from the video, recovering her breath. Michael paid close attention to her. "She has already filed a petition. It is in motion. And she didn't tell anyone, not me or Willow. She kept it disguised by using Valentine as a back channel." Sasha's panic increased. She could hardly breathe. Not because she didn't expect Nina's manipulation, but because of the potential consequences for Willow. And to Wiley. And what it might lead Sasha into again. She'd been caught up in too many wars. Nina and Valentine, Cyrus and Brando, and the court of public opinion following her collapse. And she was well aware of Nina's potential for violence when cornered. Willow, still staring blankly ahead, said quietly, "She lied to me again. She said she wanted to respect my decisions. That she would wait till I was ready." Michael sat down next to her, his arm hesitantly slipping across her shoulders. "This changes everything." Sasha attempted to gather herself. "But what can you do now? Has the court process begun?" Michael nodded. "We're attempting to halt it. However, she is armed with a comprehensive legal team. She's not playing nice anymore." That's when Sasha knew he was playing a deeper game. Nina wasn't just seeking to gain access to her family. She was also attempting to alter the story. Again. Just like when she made Sasha pretend to be her daughter. Just like when she became embroiled in Drew's incarceration. Always breaking the rules. Always pursuing a fabricated family image. And Sasha felt her past rise up like a ghost. She'd spent years trying to be someone else. Tougher, smarter and more grounded. But this kind of mental turmoil had a habit of drawing her back to the worst parts of herself. She could feel the edges tearing and the terror grabbing her. Not only for Willow but also for herself. What if Nina dragged her in again? What if someone dug up previous records, declarations and remarks made during her conservatorship hearing? Her business reputation had only recently begun to recover. Another public outburst and she could lose everything again. "I can't be pulled into this," she said quietly, but the words seemed treacherous. "I cannot go through another public scandal. I barely got out the last time." Michael stared at her sympathetically but unwaveringly. "You do not need to do anything, Sasha. I just needed to let you know. I believed it would be better coming from me than in a headline tomorrow." That's when it struck her. Of course, the story was about to leak. Someone was going to locate that footage or the court documents. It was too spicy and packed with courtamane drama to be buried. And once it did, Sasha's name would be back in the spotlight, whether she liked it or not. She rose up abruptly and paced. "Is Brooklyn involved? Does she know yet?" Michael shakes his head. "Not yet. We are keeping it tight. But, with Lois and Olivia present, it will not remain private for long."